To the terrestrial or the effect of temperature to the terrestrial environment. Temperature is also very important in bodies of water since it determines what we so call the layering of water. So in aquatic ecosystem, there is a term called thermocline, which is the transition between the mixed layer of water, which is in the upper part, and you have the deeper water, which all contains colder waters. Kumbaga. Okay, so in terms of temperature and water density, okay, density of water is less with higher temperature. That's why water with higher temperature, you can observe that one in the upper water or the surface water, which is usually traps the solar radiation coming from the sun. So in between the deep water is you have the thermocline. Yan. Okay, in the deeper water, in this case, water is more denser since it contains lower temperature. Okay, so always remember that temperature affects the expansion of water molecule, wherein the volume of water can be increased. So in higher temperature, there is increasing volume of water which decreases its density. So kung mataas ang temperature ng water, less ang kanyang density kasi tumataas nga yung kanyang nag-e-expand kumbaga yung water molecule. At the deeper portion, since malamig malamig ang temperature, so you will expect na denser ang water dito kasi hindi naman nag-i-increase yung volume. Hindi din nag-i-expand yung water molecule. Ayan. So, in the deeper part or deeper waters, you will expect na less talaga ang kanyang temperature kasi hindi naman masyadong nagpe-penetrate yung solar radiation. Hindi na umaabot yung effect ng solar radiation at this portion. Only at the mixed layer or the surface layer. Okay, so however, in our previous discussion, we have discussed the process of upwelling or turnover. So yun yung mixing or may movement ng water galing dito sa taas papunta sa ilalim, pushing some of the waters including the nutrients upward. Okay, so may ganong klaseng process. So at that particular process, naaapektuhan din yung temperature nung different layers ng water. However, they are maintained na dito malamig at dito naman sa taas mainit kasi nga they are exposed to solar radiation. Okay. So, you will expect also that in this layer here sa mixed portion, naka-adapt na sa higher temperature ng water ang mga organisms, and then most of the organisms na nandito sa taas are photosynthetic kasi kailangan nila ng light coming from the sun in order to produce energy. Dito naman, sa deeper part of water, most of the organisms are adapted to less light. Kumbaga, kasi hindi naman umaabot dito sa portion na to ang light or minimal lang ang light na nakaka-penetrate dito. Okay. So temperature also affects dissolved oxygen in bodies of water. So as you can see dito na portion, ito yung graph na nagsasabi that in lesser temperature, mataas yung oxygen level at in higher temperature, mababa yung dissolved oxygen level. Bakit? Kasi temperature affects the solubility of oxygen in water or in bodies of water. So, ibig sabihin, at higher temperature, mas less soluble siya as compared to lower temperature. So, you will ask, bakit magkaiba yung graph for freshwater and seawater? In this case kasi, we are not looking just on temperature. Nagkakaiba din ang freshwater at seawater in terms of their salinity. So, salinity also affects the level of dissolved oxygen. Particularly, the same is true with temperature. Ang salinity nakaka-affect ng solubility ng oxygen on bodies of water. Kaya you will expect that there is variation on oxygen level or dissolved oxygen level in fresh water and sea water. Okay. So dissolved oxygen is the amount of free non-compound oxygen present in water. So that is very important in assessing water quality kasi ibig sabihin ng dissolved oxygen value, if mababa yung oxygen value, so konti lang yung oxygen na magagamit ng aquatic organism as compared to dissolved oxygen na mataas, ibig sabihin, marami pang dissolved oxygen na pwedeng gamitin ang mga aquatic organisms. Okay? So, saan ba nanggagaling yung dissolved oxygen? So, primarily, pwede siya nung cycle ng exchange of gases within the atmosphere. So, may degassing na tinatawag, kumbaga ang water, nagde-diffuse din ang gas towards the atmosphere, and the atmosphere also aerate bodies of water, kumbaga. So, upon this aeration, it will add dissolved oxygen in bodies of water. Meron ding tinatawag na hydrodynamic processes just like export. Kumbaga, export, ito yung pag-give off pa rin ng gas from bodies of water to the atmosphere. At the same time, you have what we so-called accrual. Accrual, ito yung mga processes na gaya ng waves, tides, and even runoff from other bodies of water, just like of rivers or streams, okay, or saan man nanggagaling yung runoff, kumbaga. So, any waters nanggagaling from runoff also provides oxygen to bodies of water. So aside from that, there are also aquatic organisms capable of photosynthesis. So yung photosynthesis na yun, mali ata yung spelling, mali yung T, this is why. So within photosynthesis, we all know that it provides oxygen after its process. So yung dissolved oxygen din within the water, pwede din gamitin ng other organisms during the nitrification process and producing available nitrogen for other organisms, aquatic organisms. And of course, the main function of dissolved oxygen within bodies of water, yun po yung para sa respiration and abiotic oxidation ng mga aquatic organisms. Kumbaga, their breathing gas within the bodies of water ay in the form of dissolved oxygen. So dissolved oxygen, if you try to use the DO meter, the unit is expressed as milligram per liter. Okay. So when you discuss dissolved oxygen, meron din tayong tinatawag na biological oxygen demand. So ibig sabihin, ito yung amount ng oxygen na kailangan ng mga organisms sa isang bodies of water. Okay? To break down organic material in the process of respiration, particularly aerobic respiration. So, when you tested for biological oxygen demand, it provides you the idea or provides an indicator of a healthy water ecosystem or unhealthy water ecosystem. For healthy water ecosystem, you would expect that BOD is low. Kumbaga, yung demand kasi ng aerobic biological organisms ay mababa. Ibig sabihin, mataas ang dissolved oxygen on water. Dito naman sa unhealthy water, mataas ang biological oxygen demand. Ibig sabihin, mababa yung dissolved oxygen kasi yung demand ng organism, aquatic organism, on oxygen is mataas. So, kumbaga, pag mataas ang BOD mo, mababa yung dissolved oxygen mo. Or vice versa, kung mataas ang dissolved oxygen mo, mababa naman yung biological oxygen demand mo. Ganyan lang yung mga indications. And aside from BOD, meron din tayong tinatawag na COD or the chemical oxygen demand. So an indicative measurement of the amount of oxygen that can be consumed by the reactions in a measured solution. Okay. So it is an indicator of the contents of reducing substances in water, which are organic nitrites, sulfide, ferrous salts, or other organic substances. So it is commonly expressed in mass of oxygen consumed over per volume of solution. Okay. So ito yung demand or oxygen na kailangan for chemical reactions in bodies of water to occur. So as simple as that po ang chemical oxygen demand. Okay. For pH or the potential hydrogen, it provides you idea of the acidity and alkalinity of water or the soil. So kung siya ay acidic or basic, water or soil, that is a measurement of pH po. So it determines the solubility of biological uh, availability of chemical constituents. Okay. So for soil, for example, soil pH is being or soil pH depends on two factors. You have parent material, at the same time the weathering process. Okay? Ibig sabihin ng parent material depends on the rock from which the soil was formed. Okay? And the weathering process acted on it. For example, you have the climate, yan, vegetation, topography, and time, as well as water. Okay, nakaka-add din po yun ng pH doon sa um, soil. Okay? So, soil pH affects the amount of nutrients and chemicals that are soluble in soil and water. Okay? Bakit? Dahil yun nga, yung solubility ng chemicals within the soil and water ay nagdedepende kung siya ay acidic or alkaline. So, ibig sabihin, the amount of nutrients available to plants and even other organisms in both soil and water are dependent on soil pH. Some nutrients are more available under acidic condition while others are more available under alkaline condition. Okay? So, there are instances na mga nutrients available when alkaline ang soil or water, meron din kung acidic. But most of, lalo na yung mga gustong i-maintain yung they will try to correct that one that is nearly neutral na So, there are instances, for example, in agriculture, they tend to apply um, um, chemicals that can correct soil pH and water pH kasi most mineral nutrients are readily available to plants when soil pH is near neutral. Okay. There are instances also that um, soil pH and water pH affects the toxicity, particularly of the heavy metals. So, it is noted that in acidic soil or acidic waters, um, tumataas ang tendency ng effect ng toxicity ng some of the heavy metals, just like of aluminum and other heavy metals. So yun yung important. The most important thing that a pH value can give is whether it is acidic or alkaline. So you will expect at this particular values of pH, madedetermine nyo ngayon ano yung possible nutrients na naapektuhan kung siya ay acidic or possible nutrients na hindi na-absorb ng organism dahil siya ay acidic or siya ay basic.